Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet as well. We're in the midst of clarifying the meaning of the crucifixion. Finding its meaning by not looking at it through the lens of your sense of yourself being separated from the Father. If you are looking at the crucifixion or any aspect of your lives from an independent vantage point, you're going to see everything you're looking at in a conflicted manner. You're going to see everything as polarized, including God. And every single divine event that is happening, and I will tell you there is nothing that is not a divine event happening. Every divine event that is happening will be seen as both good and bad, beneficial and threatening, depending upon your mood. But nevertheless, everything that you see will be composed of opposing dynamics. Not because they're there, but because you are choosing to look at them while utilizing what we're going to call a split mind. A split mind in this sense. When you choose to conceive of yourself as being an independent being, an independent entity, you are leaving the Holy Spirit out. And what is the Holy Spirit? Nothing more than your right mind. Nothing more than your right mind. The Holy Spirit you do not see as yourself. And that's because you disowned it, if I may put it that way, when you said, "But Father, I'd rather see it my way." And you adopted an independent stance, all by yourself, on your own, for the purpose of trying to create a certain sense of independent authority because you wanted to see what that felt like, because you thought it might be interesting. When you did that, you separated off a small part of what you are and you said, "This is me," and you rejected the rest. And so now the Holy Spirit is the altar in the middle of you that you're too busy to pay any attention to. Too busy doing what? Defending your existence. Defending this private sense of existence that seems so important to you to maintain. after having gotten this bill of divorcement from the Father, and thereby splitting your mind, then God, the indivisible, moving presence of capital B being, became your enemy. Because, of course, God, being your source, would uncover the falsity, the illusionary nature of the sense of yourself that you are intent upon manifesting and confirming and somehow making real. And so that which can uncover the falsity of your position becomes your enemy, while at the same time being something which, if you are a good boy or a good girl and you plead with him, because he is love, he will be your helper. So you create this conflicted sense of your God, part of which is true and part of which is false. Going to the book. The message of the crucifixion is perfectly clear. Teach only love, for that is what you are. If you interpret the crucifixion in any other way, you are using it as a weapon for assault, rather than as the call for peace for which it was intended. The apostles often misunderstood it, and always for the same reason. That makes anyone misunderstand anything. Their own imperfect love made them vulnerable to projection, and out of their own fear, they spoke of the wrath of God as his, God's, retaliatory weapon. Now, it would have been impossible to conceive of God as wrathful and having a retaliatory weapon if one wasn't feeling guilty, if one wasn't looking through a lens of conflict. Continuing, nor could they speak of the crucifixion entirely without anger, because their own sense of guilt had made them angry. You know what? All of you have a predisposition to anger. Because anger is just about the only effective means you have for making change and for enforcing conditions that won't be further threatening to your already false sense or definition of yourself that you are trying to impress everyone else with as being the truth. And so part of your being on guard to defend this imaginary position that you want to think is real is to be ready to express anger to bring your fellow man into line, to bring him back into agreement with a mutually agreed upon definition of yourself that you are trying to teach and force others to believe. Continuing. There are two glaring examples of upside-down thinking in the New Testament, whose whole gospel is only the message of love. These are not like several slips into impatience which I made, I had learned the atonement prayer, which I also came to teach, too well to engage in upside-down thinking myself. What is the atonement prayer? Teach only love, for that is what you are. If the apostles, continuing, if the apostles had not felt guilty, they never could have quoted me as saying, I come not to bring peace, but a sword. This is clearly the exact opposite of everything I taught. Nor could they have described my reactions to Judas as they did if they had really understood me. They would have realized I could not have said, Betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? Unless I believed in betrayal. You see, you can't teach what you don't believe. You can't teach what you don't believe. And what you believe, you teach. Continuing, the whole message of the crucifixion was simply that I did not. The punishment, which I am said to have called forth upon Judas, was a similar reversal. Judas was my brother and a son of God, as much a part of the sonship as myself. Was it likely that I would condemn him when I was ready to demonstrate that condemnation is impossible? The lesson of the crucifixion was to convey to you the value of not taking the bait that causes you to respond from your imaginary sense of yourself, not to take the bait that causes you to forget who you are, not to take the bait that causes you to feel that there is justification for abandoning your right mind, for abandoning the Father, for abandoning the clear, infinite, direct experience of what you are in favor of a definition you made up that you thereafter have to defend, and which forever after causes everything you see to be polarized, worthy of your defense, and therefore a reason not to remember home. Continuing, I am very grateful to the apostles for their teaching and fully aware of the extent of their devotion to me. Nevertheless, as you read their teachings, remember that I told them myself that there was much they would understand later because they were not wholly ready to follow me at the time. Follow me, to follow me all the way at the time. I emphasize this only because I do not want you to allow any fear to enter into the thought system toward which I am guiding you. I do not call for martyrs, but for teachers. No one is punished for sins, and the sons of God are not sinners. You see, if you look at what I'm teaching, and if you look in the direction that I am guiding you, and you look in that direction from your own conflicted sense of yourself, you will be bound to assume that the road will be a hard one, a struggle, that the road will be fraught with opposition from your brothers and sisters because it's going to be so radically different. And that can be justification for walking slowly or turning and running. But I must remind you that what we're talking about is learning how to be the clearer and clearer presence of love. And you know what? Everyone recognizes love and does not find the presence of love frightening, objectionable, or otherworldly. You may have forgotten how to love, but none of you has forgotten what the experience of love feels like. And so you must know that what I'm uncovering in you is your ever-increasing capacity to be the presence of love, which will be recognizable as love, and will not create for you dynamics of conflict, struggle, or martyrdom. This is very important. Those being the presence of love are welcomed and embraced by those around them. This is the truth. You may say, well, I've been the presence of love, and indeed, I've had people get very angry with me. Well, I promise you that if that was the case, you were working at being the presence of love, and you were feeling that the only way to convey being the presence of love was through the same use of willfulness and coercion that you brought into play when you were trying to enforce the mutually agreed upon definitions. And it was that willful intent to coerce by means of love the experience of love in others that others responded to negatively. What we're discussing is not a way to teach love, but a way to be love. And there's a big difference. Continuing, any concept of punishment involves the projection of blame and reinforces the idea that blame is justified. The behavior that results is a lesson in blame, just as all behavior teaches the beliefs which motivate it. All behavior teaches the beliefs which motivate it. You're teaching all the time, even when you're not saying a word. Psychologists refer to some aspects of it as body language. But your behavior always is reflecting what you believe. If you, through body language, communicate defense, you are teaching that you feel threatened. You are thereby teaching that you have taken the bait and forgotten who you are. And that the only correction for defense against threat, perceived threat, is to back up prior to the point where you saw yourself as separate, divorced from your father, and therefore divorced from your brothers and sisters, because as an orphan you don't have any brothers or sisters. Without a father you don't have any brothers or sisters. Continuing, the crucifixion was a complex of behaviors arising out of clearly opposed thought systems. As such, it was the perfect symbol of conflict between the ego and the Son of God. Mind you, it said the ego and the Son of God. It didn't say Judas, it didn't say Pilate, it didn't say the crowd yelling, "Crucify him, crucify him." Remember, not to personalize the ego. Again, the crucifixion was a complex of behaviors arising out of clearly opposed thought systems. As such, it was the perfect symbol of conflict between the ego and the Son of God. The conflict is just as real now, and its lessons, too, have equal reality when they are learned. I do not need gratitude any more than I needed protection. But you need to develop your weakened ability to be grateful, or you cannot appreciate God. That's another way of saying, if you cannot love your brother whom you have seen, how can you love God whom you have not seen? You need to develop your weakened ability to be grateful, or you cannot appreciate God. He does not need your appreciation, but you do. And you all know this. When you are afraid of something, when you are engulfed in fear, it's almost impossible to feel gratitude. And because you are constantly defending, reinforcing, supporting your false sense of yourself, and therefore a false sense of what you're called upon to be every day, you seldom find occasion for expressing gratitude, and it has become a somewhat foreign activity to you. Now, a short while ago, I suggested to everyone that during the holiday period here, that you, when you encounter someone who is providing you with a service, that when they're finished, you look them squarely in the eye and say, "Thank you for being here for me." Or, thank you for doing what you do. A little bit of expression of gratitude. Many of you have found this difficult to do. It's much easier just to say, thank you very much. But to say, thank you for being here for me, or thank you for doing what you do, is more difficult because it's more intimate. Intimacy breaks isolation. And those of you who have attempted to put into practice my suggestion have found out just exactly how much you defend yourself against abandoning your isolation. It shows you how deeply ingrained your habit of separation goes. And all of it comes out in a very simple opportunity to do something very simple, to say a few words. Thank you for being here for me. Thank you for doing what you do. I encourage you to engage in this practice indefinitely. You know you need to experience gratitude expressed toward you. Well, so does everyone else. And gratitude can only be extended from a heart that cares. So does that tell you something? If you're reluctant to express gratitude, it means you are reluctant to express the fact that you care. It demonstrates how defended you are against caring. How foreign it has become to you. And yet I tell you that when you become completely undefended, when you yield into the brotherhood, as it were, and you find yourself at one with everyone, you will find that caring, that being the presence of love, as a direct, not communication, but as a direct communion, it will be the most joyful thing you have experienced. But it's got to start right now in the middle of your reluctance to express it, because it seems to have become foreign to you, in order for it to grow into a fuller and fuller expression. Now, you know what? When you let appreciation come forth from you, it can't come forth as any means of control over another. It will be a gift. And it will create ripples, and it will spread. And not only will it become less and less foreign to extend appreciation and to break down the isolation, it will also become easier and easier for you and everyone else to stand in receipt of appreciation without minimizing it or apologizing for it or talking it away. Thank you for being here for me. That's okay. It's nothing. You see,